Dave Faulkner of the Hoodoo Gurus, welcome to Brisbane again.
Thank you, good to be here. I was only here last week.
Well, I'm always running into you at the airport, so you must know it pretty well. Hoodoo Gurus are up and firing and playing as well as ever, and you must be very happy about that.
Yeah, look, we had 6 years off, and it's been a long, hard struggle to get back from there, and we've finally done it, and in a funny way, it's mission accomplished. We've done a great new album, and about to tour over to Europe and the States again, and we've done a few of those already in the last few years, but it's just great to have a record we love and feel kind of like top of our game.
Yeah, and how does that affect you as an artist? Like when a big band like that's in recess, do you keep on creating as much as ever, or is it?
Oh yeah, the band, it wasn't recess really. We broke up for real, and it just happened to be a recess as it turned out. Yeah, I did a couple of albums. At first I wanted to have some time off because I'd been in the Gurus for so long, so I had this album called Antenna, which I spent 18 months on, which, or a bit less, but that was my first project, and that was designed to kind of like cushion the blow of, being without this, life career band I'd been in. And then I took a year off to basically just kind of like go, now what? What do you want to do with your life? And at the end of it, I thought of the amazing inside of rock and roll.
Yeah.
And then that's when I formed the Persian Rugs, and that took a while to happen. And while I was doing that, I was writing Gurus songs, as it turned out. I didn't know they were for the Gurus, but they just couldn't find a home elsewhere, and I just realised, in fact, that was the outlet they demanded, those songs. So eventually I kind of relented and reformed the band.
I'll tell you a funny story. One day I had to ring Brad Shepherd about something. I rang him with a mobile, and I could hear this, "Oh, you got me." And it's like, he's going off to the Hoodoo Gurus are getting back together. He thinks I've found out I've got the big scoop. So he blabs it all out on the phone to me. I said, I didn't know anything about that until you told me.
Yeah, we keep the loose lips sync this shit like many times. That's what I've got to be careful of now.
But taking that break, it freshens things up, and these are great songs.
Yeah, well, for me, the thing about doing the break was I had some quite major insights into the creative process, or certainly a band process. When I did the Antenna thing mainly, I was in that band. It took about 8 or 9 months to sort of start working this material up and making an album out of nothing, and it's basically forging a whole creative identity out of just seeing what four of us would come up with. And after about 3 months, it suddenly sort of took this strange, very positive direction where it just seemed to actually know its own internal direction where it wanted to go, and the four of us didn't need to even question it anymore or try to push it. We kind of knew as soon as we tried an idea whether it was appropriate or inappropriate, because you do experiment and try different things, but it was like we didn't have to even discuss it anymore or kind of argue the point. It just became very obvious that we all, in a sense, sort of had this shared vision or something that just was what I call a group identity, that elusive fifth member theory. And the band and the Hoodoo Gurus always had that, but I hadn't realised that was an important component of what we were. I just figured everyone did that, but seeing it come to life in front of my eyes with another band made me realise just how incredible what we had was. And when we got back together again, I recognised it immediately as that was that extra something that you don't get when you get the best 4 session musicians in a room and make the best album. It's just not going to happen that way. And
I guess you're so fortunate as the musician who finds those. Plenty great musicians don't find the right chemistry.
Well, what it is actually, it's the reason why amateurish musicians like myself can actually get away with it, because we get something that's a bit more real and unique happening rather than just relying on our limited skills.
Since the Hoodoo Gurus started, and the first time I saw the Hoodoo Gurus somewhere in Sydney, that's a while ago now. We've seen a lot of changes in the music industry, but in a lot of ways, the band's just got to do it. Nothing ever changes in that regard.
Well, right now we are basically at the point that the world, I guess the global economy has gone, belly up in many ways, but there's still sort of signs of life. But the music industry really seems to be entering the Great Depression, in my mind, and everything is changing, and they're all trying to scramble and claw back turf from other areas which they'd never formerly owned. This 360 deal thing that is becoming the plat du jour for all the industry heavyweights. But in other areas, it's got this incredible growth spurt, and the different ways of communicating your music and getting yourself known that never existed in the past as well. So there's the incredible diversity of issues out there right now that have never happened before.
Yeah.
A conflation, they call that, don't they?
I believe you've got the rights to the Hoodoo Gurus back catalogues all in your hands.
We do. We don't own a few of the major early albums in the US. That's like the lost cause. I mean, one of these days I might, try and chase them up, when I've got a spare few $100,000 to kind of hassle multinationals. Yeah. But, we were ripped off by some pretty shonky dealers in the very early days, and, and we still unfortunately carry that burden. But we've owned our catalogue since pretty much not long after that, and same with all my publishing. That's luckily not ever gone astray. So I'm a master of my own destiny in most areas, in most places in the world.
We had a bit of fun earlier in the year. We shared a stage here in Brisbane. We did a songwriting workshop. That was great fun, and you did another. Yeah,
well, the one we did together, I mean, that was just amazing. I mean, I was really kind of taken aback by how much actual substantial stuff came out. Because sometimes you get into these sorts of forums and you think basically people kind of just say what they're always going to say, and what they're going to say, and it just doesn't go anywhere from that. And we actually started getting into the nitty-gritty of things that, I think, from time to time and quite, important about songwriting. And, you managed to draw that out of us, and I don't know whether just the people that were there on the stage, and in the audience, whatever it was, it was a really great little session. And then I just did one here at BIGSOUND yesterday, and it was nothing like the one we did, and a lot of this, it didn't really go anywhere near the same territory, to be honest. But again, I was kind of amazed. Nice eclectic group of people, Ed Cooper and Jake Stone and Ben Salter and Brian Ritchie and myself. And it sort of became more about, we just kind of about the last 15, 20 minutes, we got into some quite interesting area, which was about the idea of arrangement versus actual composing. How much of it, with dance music, for example, do you call it composing, do you call it arranging? There's a lot of grey areas now in that sort of in music, and and also, like Ed pointed out, how some of his favourite records, maybe the songs weren't so great, but the arrangement was so fantastic in the case of the recording and the sounds of the performance, that it's still a fantastic piece of music, whether the actual songwriter was on the top of his game or not. And there's between those different points, there's lots of interesting, fruitful areas to kind of, discuss. And that was what we kind of got into.
And there'll be more of this tomorrow, I believe.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, there's some pretty good talent on this panel too. I'm doing the overproduced panel with Peter Jesperson and forget someone from Due Process. Victor Van. Victor Van. and someone Lewicki, who I don't know, an artist, who I'm hoping, obviously going to enjoy finding out who this person is. I've written out a few ideas at the top of my head, and the moderator kind of liked, all my little sort of bullet points of what we can discuss. So if any of those get in there, there'll be plenty to talk about.
Yeah. So in general, a conference like this, Brisbane's got a couple of things in its favour. One being it's small enough to have something like this.
Well, like Austin with South by Southwest. I mean, there's quite a strong similarity, actually. The wandering around last night from club to club and, seeing all the different acts playing, that is very similar to the South by Southwest experience. And actually is in some ways better because South by Southwest, you queue up and you don't usually get into the things, whereas there's pretty easy access here, and, it's not quite, the world, everyone trying to get into one club, at the moment. I mean, maybe I haven't been to the right shows, I don't know. But conferences in general, and this one in particular, I was just thinking about this morning before I wasn't thinking about this chat, but I just was crossing my mind about, what are we doing here and what's the point of it? And I think, basically the metaphor I'd like to use is like an art school, an art college. If you want to be an artist, when you go to art school, you don't learn to become talented. Yeah. You should already have that talent within you. What you go to art school for is to learn the skills, like someone can show you different techniques, whatever, that will help you to be creative in those different ways. And in the same way, the conference does the same thing. You know, you've got your musical talent, or whether it's, you know, in some other part of the industry, you know, being an agent or whatever, and you will meet people who've got, you know, further along the road from you, who can maybe give you some pointers, and you can plug into those resources and basically learn how to use your talent more you know, constructively. You know, this is the sort of place where we actually can get together and, you know, be unified in a sense in what we've all learnt and what we all feel about the industry, and can kind of bring that across to other people. It's not what you normally get. I mean, when you see someone up on stage, you just kind of admire their particular personal talent and envy them.
Well, thanks, Dave. Welcome to Brisbane, and enjoy the rest of your Big Sound.
Thank you, I will.
Cheers.